Hey everybody, this is Kevin Sonny Gullage from Sonny and the Blues Grooves, and y'all are listening to my weekly mixtape with Brian Colbert. And you know what? It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. On tonight's special album dive edition of the show, I'm joined by Kenny Sonny Gullage, whose debut album, Go Be Free, drops next week via Blind Pig Records. Sonny, thank you so much for joining me on My Weekly Mixtape.
Man, thank you so much for having me, Brian. It really means a lot.
Well, I'd like to start by asking you the same question I ask all my first-time guests, and that is, what does the word mixtape mean to you?
Oh, man. Great question. Coming from a backdrop of many genres of music, that word is really packed, like whether we're talking about that classic, hey, I made a mixtape for you when you meet somebody and you make a little playlist of songs that you want to express your feelings to, and you have a little bit of everything in it, a little country, a little, shake yes or no mixed with a little bit of love, Keisha Cole, and Nutbush City Limits, you have a whole bunch of everything. Or even if you say from like a hip hop aspect where you have the word mixtape, and that meant, hey, this is my new stuff. This is what I'm putting into the world, and I want you to check it out. Back then when it was actually a tape, and it was everybody's just raw demo, So when I hear mixtape, I think this is your raw emotion, like the demos, where you're expressing what you want to express to people, like the meaning of I made you a mixtape.
Love it. Well, before we dive into the album Go Be Free, I'd like to talk about how you got here. And I think a good place to start would be the fact that your family surname was originally Ledbetter, as in blues folk legend and rock and roll Hall of Fame inductee Leadbelly Ledbetter. Yeah. I guess it's safe to say that blues runs in the family genes.
Man, so let's break it down all the way back. Let's get back there. Let's do it. I have a big family of musicians. I mean, really big. And most of our history as a family is passed down through the oral tradition. We tell each other, hey, you had a cousin who did this once. You had an uncle who was a king. That's what most people get. We, on the other hand, we're like, yeah, you had a great uncle, a great uncle. Before there was any Gullage, you had a great uncle who was a musician. That's what I always grew up knowing. I had a great uncle who was a musician. I had a lot of music in the family. Music been our thing for generations on generations. And church and music went hand in hand for so long. So always I was like, oh, another gospel musician in the family. There's another gospel musician, or a bunch of gospel musicians, another one. And then in about 2017, I want to say, my uncle goes, oh, I'm playing at B.B. King's Blues Club. And then he goes, oh, see that face on the wall right there? Yeah, you know where you related to him, right? And I look, and right there it says Legend. I'm just standing there like, there's no way that this just went over my head for that long. I said, yeah, Gullage, before there was Gullage, the last name was Ledbetter. Yeah, that's what we've done for a long time. Yeah, that's it. That's how I said it. Yeah. And then, the more it comes from a huge tradition of music. My father's a bass player. He's actually my bass player. But my father has 11 siblings. Wow. Now, in gospel, for a long time, when you said the word quartet, that meant 4 or more performers. So the boys, 6 boys, 6 girls, the boys had their own gospel quartet. The girls had their own gospel quartet. And before that, there was my grandmother, who was a recording artist. And in 1965, she recorded an album. And it was always known, yeah, she used to record. And one day we found the album. And in the liner notes, you saw Sister Alberta Gullage. And I go, oh, I know who that is. Right under it, Sammy Perfect. So it was always having a run of like, hey, musicians, not just gospel, but blues musicians were always around this family. And I never understood how it went so hand in hand all the time. And then you find out, hey, you go all the way back. There's a name that you probably know named Leadbelly. And I was like, Ledbetter? Yeah, his last name was Ledbetter. Yeah. well, that used to be our last name. So it's just going back and knowing that that's your tradition in your family, and it goes all the way down and all the way back. And now you're looking at me, I guess, who's trying to carry on that side of the tradition without knowing I was carrying on that side of the tradition.
How did growing up with music throughout your family and in your family lineage strengthen your love of all kinds of music growing up?
We weren't encouraged to just listen to just anything in my house. We were encouraged to listen to everything. There's a big difference.
Yes, there is.
You know, anything is saying, hey, whatever comes on the radio is just as important as listening to something that might be detrimental to you becoming a musician. So I was growing up listening to so much gospel music and so many gospel artists. And at the same time, my dad was playing for blues musicians like Vashti Jackson, Henry Butler. I was around him as a kid. So we'd be encouraged to say, hey, check this out. Hey, check this out. And you might hear, especially in New Orleans, you know, where New Orleans is a big melting pot of all musics. You'd hear a little bit of everything. I'd hear my dad up at 12 a.m. practicing Henry's Boogie. And then I'd hear my dad up at 7 in the morning practicing some blues for Vashti Jackson. And then I'd wake up and I'd hear my brother, who was in the next room over, blasting at some hip hop song that he found. And he was like, yeah, this is really cool. And then I'd hear country music all growing up in South Louisiana. And I come from a small town on the outskirts of New Orleans called Luling. And in Luling, I call it the perfect center because on one side, 45 minutes to the east, you'll find New Orleans, Louisiana. And when you find New Orleans, you know what you're getting. You're getting that hip hop, you're getting that R&B, you're getting that gospel, you're getting that all that. But 45 minutes in the opposite direction, you find the swamp poppers, as I'll call them. You get swamp pop, you get Zydeco, you get traditional Cajun music.
Yes.
And having that with a family full of musicians, you were always pulled in so many different directions to check out this, check out this, check out this, check out this. And even sometimes in the silence between all of these things, you heard new things that were just important to check out. You know, a lot of the way I even write comes from just sitting back and listening to absolutely nothing. So you were encouraged to listen to everything, not anything, because anybody can hear anything, but not everyone can hear everything.
Amazing. Now, we're going to fast forward a little bit here. You're out, you're on the road, you're doing your thing. I'm going to fast forward to 2020 because you're out and about. You and the Blues Groovers have an artist residency at BB King's in New Orleans, and then the pandemic hits. Now, a lot of people went in different directions with the pandemic, but you went in the direction of American Idol season 20 of all places. As the first person who has been on my weekly mixtape that has had experience in the AI machine, and by AI, I mean American Idol, I'd love to know what that experience was like for you from the inside looking out.
You learn a lot. That's the first thing I can say. You learn a whole new world of, not to be corny, but a whole new world of musicians and a whole new world of music. In New Orleans, you grow up being a musician from the time you're a child, a lot of us. But that level of professionalism is not commonly expected or experienced. So when I got to American Idol, I looked around and saw, in the audition, one audition, I saw over 100 other people who were just great and did what I did with the same passion that I did. Past my audition, I saw 74 other people who were doing it to the level that I was trying to do as well. People who had that drive and passion that all the other people who didn't make it didn't quite have established yet. And then you were expected things. You were expected to wake up at 6 a.m. to be downstairs in the lobby for 7 a.m. to be at the Orpheum Theater for 7:30. You were expected to have the clothes pressed, and you might end up wearing the same outfit 3 days in a row because of filming. But the truth is, you were expected to have that outfit looking the same every single one of those days. And you were running on a schedule. You were always go, 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 go. And you needed to know what you said you were going to know. There's so many levels of professionalism that a lot of people never get to see, and they're never expected to even know. So seeing the other side of that, I always thought of myself as a professional, as like, one of those top level, I'm a high functioning professional. I always thought that when and then I realized, I was like, wow, there's a level of professionalism that I'm trying to get used to at this point. And even having the chance to sing in front of Lionel Richie, Luke Bryan, and Katy Perry, that was a whole experience in itself.
Sing in front of them, you got to perform with them.
It's like they were just, oh my gosh. I saw Katy Perry sing without any effects for the first time ever. And I tell everyone, she is like a female Steven Tyler with how free she is in her voice. And Lionel Richie, I'm not sure how old he is, and I'm not going to even disrespect him to try to guess it, but he's an older fellow who still sings with that push that most young people are trying to reach still. And Luke Bryan, I was thoroughly surprised just how talented he is, not just in singing, but he also plays piano, he plays guitar. And you learn these things about people, and these are the things you think, hey, why isn't this what is selling? Why isn't this what people are putting out there for others to see? And you're just like, wow, that means that there's another level of professionalism that I still don't know. And funny enough, I learned about that level of professionalism while trying to work on the album Go Be Free.
Well, did your experience on American Idol lead you to the folks at Blind Pig for this album? How did that connection come together?
Actually, it came from touring. Well, after American Idol, a lot happened. I accidentally got a Hammond endorsement, which was hilarious.
That's a good endorsement to have.
Yeah. I'm a Hammond artist, and I set my melodeon on top of the piano during my audition, and in big, bold red letters, you see Hammond melodeon HP-2. And on the Monday after my audition there, they called me and said, hey, we want you to be a Hammond artist. We want you to be part of our family. And then they looked at clips of me and saw my organ player, Brandon Adams from the Blues Groovers. And they go, hey, we want him too.
Nice. 2 in 1.
So much had happened. I got a Hammond endorsement. I released my first independent album entitled Something Old, Something New, Something Borrowed Blues, which led to my first distribution deal with Basin Street Records out of New Orleans, Louisiana. And after that, I'd gotten some pretty good reviews from that. And I ended up touring. I went to Austria. I went to Brazil. I went to Austria again. And next thing you know, someone calls and says, hey, we want you to do a summer tour next year. At this point, it's 2020. I want to say 2023. And they say, hey, we want you to do a summer tour this year. Okay, we'll do it. We did 13 cities in 15 days.
Wow.
And most of the time of the tour was spent in the van, of course, because we were driving all over. And I think we did Croatia, Slovenia, Italy, Germany, Austria, and Belgium. And
wow.
So we were like, we'd get off the stage, pack up, and we'd be gone, trying to make a 13-hour drive into a 7-hour drive sometimes.
Woo!
So one of these shows, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Grolsch Blues Festival in Skopje, Germany. And a man named Bernard saw our show. And he calls his friend, the owner of Blind Pig, Jeff, calls Jeff Schradel and goes, hey, there's this young guy that you got to see. There's a young guy you got to check out. And I know you're bringing Blind Pig back. Why don't you check him out? He might be a great artist. So after we did a 13-city tour, I get another phone call. And I think this speaks to how random life can be. I get another phone call and they go, hey, we're revamping Blind Pig and we want you to be one of our first artists back. Now that call was such an honor because when we were first releasing Something Old, Something New, Something Borrowed Blues, we were looking for a label to partner with Blind Pig. But at the time, Blind Pig was like, hey, we're not up and running right now. And I understood, that happens sometimes, especially in the economy of music.
Yes.
That happens. So to hear years later, hey, this is Blind Pig. My name's Jeff Stradle with Blind Pig, and we want you to be one of our first artists back. That hit me like a truck. I couldn't describe how not ready for that I was, because I was just taken aback. So that's how I got connected with Blind Pig Records, actually.
Well, Go Be Free drops August 23rd on Blind Pig Records. So let's dive into the album. And because I'm a sucker for album opening tracks, we're going to kick things off tonight with the album opener, Just Kiss Me Baby.
Shaking, baking down the street. It's good to feel you next to me. Music blasting down on Bill. And later on, when things get real, want you to come on over here and soothe me, baby. When you smile like that, it drives me crazy. Just kiss me, baby. Just kiss me, baby. Puppy loving, holding.
This song is funky, soulful, and just an all-around fun way to kick things off. The band sounds absolutely locked in. Is this the Blues Groovers playing on the album?
I'm going to be honest. No, it's not.
Really?
And I'll explain that, actually. So let's talk about Just Kiss Me Baby. I love it. So this song came to be, this is the one song I think that was written completely from scratch. As in, here's a blank piece of paper, let's come up with something. At first it was, hey, Kevin, for this album, bring in some ideas, I'll bring in some ideas, and let's see what we get. This is the one that was a blank piece of paper in the middle of the writing. And Tom Hambridge, who co-wrote with me on this album and produced on this album, as well as played drums on this album, he said the simple words that every young musician, especially from New Orleans, loves to hear. Hey, Kevin, could you play something funky for me? That's all. And I go, sure. He has this swirly. He has this whirly. He goes, here, just play it on this. And instantly I just go, all right. And he goes, yeah. And I'm thinking like something like shaking, baking down the street or something. And we were writing, but we were writing in such synchrony that like everything was just bouncing off the walls. The energy was just everywhere. So it was about saying, hey, let's write something that feels good. Let's talk about it. And it went, shaking, baking down the street. Good to be next to me. Music blasting down on Bill. And later on when things get real. And it was just so natural that we were just like almost joking with how we were writing it. Just like, hey, what would you say? That, come on over here and soothe me, baby. And when you smile like that, it drives me crazy. Just kiss me, baby. It became it was just like a fun time writing. So we tried to capture all the energy we had writing that song and put it into recording it. And when we got there into the session, it wasn't the Blues Groovers. The Blues Groovers are, well, it's a group of some of the baddest musicians you'll find, in my opinion. But if you're recording an album in Nashville, you have access to guys who make albums, guys who do Nashville sessions, So I walk in a room full of Nashville musicians, and all of these guys, they hear the track, just the sample track, and go, oh, okay. And they make it come to life. Now, that's something that you can't always do with guys who even perform as much as the Blues Groovers and I. When we perform together, every single time, it's always just right on it, right into it. But in a studio session, you want things to be as crisp, as real as you can get it. Raw, but real. And these guys, Rob Christone, Tommy Mack, Kenny Greenberg, Kevin McKendry, and Tom Hambridge, They came in and they made this track sound, they helped it come alive. Because writing it and playing it, we can do that all day. But making it say, hey, this is a real living, breathing thing, listen to it. That's something that, yeah, it does take more guys to do sometimes. So that was a whole nother experience that just was new to me.
And what I love about this song is it truly feels like you're sitting in a room in a circle, jamming it out and playing it and having fun live. Even during the breaks where you blow the kiss, it feels like it's being done very improv and on the fly. And it really gives that song this, hey, this is happening as you're listening. It's a very live environment on this track.
A lot of that actually was very much improv. It was, we recorded live. It was most of these songs were done in max 2 takes.
Wow.
And it was like, we'd be singing, or I'd be singing, and then I'd do something like, dun, 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 boom. That sound. And we'd look at each other and crack up, and then get right back into it. So yeah, it was very much a, hey, let's jam on this, but make it, a studio quality jam, a record jam,
And that it certainly is. And the next song I want to highlight on the album is the title track and lead single from the album, Go Be Free.
I remember back when I was young, Daddy called me, said, come here, my son. He said, if you want to be like me, you gotta learn to keep your mind at ease. He said, go be free. I remember back in school, was no fan of the schoolhouse rules. Teacher asked me, what do I want to be? I said, well, at 3:30, honey, I'll be free. She said, go be free. She said, go be free. Say go be free.
Now, you talked about your grandmother's roots in gospel music, and I feel that shining through on this track. I mean, lyrically, the last verse really struck me. I heard a band marching down the street, carrying a casket and a green pine wreath. They weren't crying, saying rest in peace, just heard a choir singing, go be free. I'm getting the hair on my arm standing up just saying it. There's a musical concoction in this track that to me is a perfect mix of soul, gospel, and blues. And it's so delicately balanced in this song. Is that something that you're thinking about when you're writing? Or is that just all of the music that you grew up with kind of coming through as who you are musically?
That's honestly, that's the best way you can put it. It's all of the music that I grew up coming into this symphony of how can I put this? This symphony of reaching a point. That's the best way I can say it. This symphony of reaching accomplishment, reaching where you want to go. Not saying that you've made it there, but saying reaching as in like, hey, I'm walking in the right direction. Because it started off with, when I first started writing it, started off with just guitar. And I thought, I want to play something real gospel, which is where the main line that just straight dum 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 dum, just that almost shout chorus. And when you have a shout, you want to put your hands together. You want to go like this all the time. And then it went into, now this is gospel, but the way I'll sing it, I want it to sound real bluesy. I wanted to have that blues edge. So I remember back when that sound, that real pinch, but it's sticking at you. And then I had to put that rock influence that I grew up with, that don't go, and have that choir in the background at the same time.
Yeah.
So when all those put together, you end up with something that's a mixture of all the little elements that create who you are. And that's how I do go into a lot of writing. I go into it with just like, hey, who am I? Where do I come from? What am I doing? And that's actually the purpose of Go Be Free. It's to show people, hey, this is who I am. This is where I come from. So it's giving a sneak peek for a lot of people into not just who Sonny is, but also who's Kevin. You know, who's Kevin Sonny Gullage, not just who's Sonny Gullage.
Well, as I'm listening to the album, I'm hearing that story because there's moments where I'm sitting there going, wow, I'm feeling some dirty swamp rock here. And then a few minutes later, I'm going, ooh, this is getting bluesy. We're getting dirty here. And then a few minutes later, it's soulful and it's got that gospel touch and all these different genres coming together in this melting pot, if you will. But then you like to throw in a little bit of the funk, things I can't control.
Into this life, red, brown, black, and white. Now how we got here, we don't know. Some die young and some get old. I can't worry about things I can't control. When rain falls, it ain't up to me. If heaven calls, it's meant to be. In words ahead, nobody knows. Gotta live for now and let it roll. Can't worry about things I can't control.
As someone who personally struggles on and off with anxiety, I feel like this is the kind of song that I need to hear every now and then because the message in the lyrics, such as the world outside could be so cold, but I got music in my soul. I don't think there's a lyric on this album that I identified personally more with than that one. And lyrically, I have to say, on songs like Go Be Free and Things I Can't Control, these are very positive, uplifting, and affirming lyrics, which are usually not the 3 words someone would use to describe a blues album lyrically. Can you talk about the message in your lyrics overall and what you'd like listeners to maybe take away from them?
Yeah. You know, I grew up listening to a lot of blues, like a lot of blues. And one of those people that I listened to, and I feel like everyone at some point listened to, was B.B. King.
Yeah.
B.B. has so many different styles when he was writing. And when you look at certain songs, you're like, man, this is real sad. This is the blues. How blue can you get?
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought you a 3-course dinner. You said, thanks for the snack. You know, that kind of, that's what a lot of people think of when they hear blues, the word blues. They think of the emotion of blues. Blues is sad. Blues is, but then you also look at other B.B. King tracks, like, I'm so excited. I got fire in my, you know, that real happy, take it home. Way down south, there's a cool stream running in the night. I can feel my heart turning. Feel someday I'd like to come back to the place I started from. Take it home. That's happy.
Yeah.
The uplift, that's inspiring. And, you know, everyone identifies with the blues different. A lot of people identify with the blues into that you're talking about how your car got stolen on Monday and Wednesday things just didn't go right neither. And that's all well and good, but the blues isn't about one feeling. The blues is about all feelings. The blues is about all you like. All the, you know, blues song could be a love song. A blues song can be a sad song. A blues song can be a mad song. A blues song could be a happy song, but the blues is just the expression of feeling. So when I write, it's let's express it. Let's put it out there. And, you know, even when you look at Just Kiss Me Baby, that's one thing. But when you look at Worried About the Young or Tattooed Wings, it's like, whoa, these are that blues that you think, oh, the blues. but it's all blues. It's all the feeling.
Well, I first want to ask if you're looking at my notes, because you actually just rattled off the next two songs we're going to talk about, but I'm going to put a pin in that for a second. Because you mentioned B.B. King, I've actually told this story one other time on the show, but when I started in radio back in 2000, I was talking with my boss, and I'm carrying a large stack of reel-to-reel tapes to one of the studios, and it's stacked right up to the tip of my nose, and she's telling me what she needs me to do with them, and I'm walking backwards listening to her. And next thing I hear is, whoa, 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 and I get a hand on my shoulder. And I turn around, and B.B. King is standing there holding Lucille in his hand. And he's going to one of the other studios. And I'm like, Mr. King, as I'm literally, the tapes are covering my face. So you can't see my jaw on the ground. And I'm like, Mr. King, I am so sorry, sir. And I turned and I said, Lucille, my sincerest apologies. And B.B. King looked at me and he said, you can knock me down and I'll get right back up. But Lucille doesn't know how to take a fall. And I literally said, I backed up and I said, after you, sir, and I let him walk by, and that 15 seconds was my brush with the great one. So I had to talk about that when you brought up B.B. King.
I'm not going to lie to you. Those 15 seconds mean so much. And I think people don't get that, because it's such a little peek into what you're going to do one day. It's those little moments matter. I was behind Eric Gales at the opening B.B. King's New Orleans. And back then I was in high school playing jazz music. And I'm standing next to Eric Gales, didn't even know. Just saw some guy wearing a nice red tracksuit, wearing some chains, wearing a goatee, and he looked all nice enough, and I was like, oh wow, just another guy. And then I get home and my dad's watching it because it went all night long. He goes, man, and they even got Eric out there. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, Eric Gales. Pulls me over. I was like, oh, I was standing behind him in the line. It's those little 15-second moments mean so much in life. It's great to hold on to those things. It's those little brushes with greatness are just peeks into what the next thing might be sometimes. Because I didn't know I was going to be playing blues. I was at the opening of B.B. King's Blues Club in New Orleans and standing next to Eric Gales and didn't even know I was going to play blues one day. So those matter.
And here you are doing it. And I want to remind people now, listeners that don't know, Kevin or Sonny is 25 years old. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the maturity that you're hearing on these songs, both musically and lyrically, give me hope for the future of music, especially when a 25-year-old is writing a song like Worried About the Young.
Kids are starting out already deep in debt. Can't find a decent job. They take what they can get. I'm worried about the young when I see what's going on. The way this world is turning might not be here long.
This track features Christone Kingfish Ingram, who brings his amazing guitar style and tone to this track. Can you talk about how this collaboration came together and what it was like working with him?
It was said while we were writing. 4 people were in the room while we were writing. I was in the room. My father was in the room. Tom Hemrich was in the room. And Rich Fleming was in the room. And we were writing this song, and it was just speaking, it was speaking even from the page, it was speaking. And the question you get is, with an album like this, on a label like this, they're looking for features. They're trying to figure out who's going to be a feature. And the whole time thought was, with a song like this, there are a few names in young blues right now that are really doing stuff. There's Ali Venable. There's Dylan Triplett. There's DK Harrell. And we can keep going because, I have lots and lots of favorites. Marcus King, that guy. But
We actually have an entire episode of My Weekly Mixtape dedicated to blues rock with Jax Hollow, who's another amazing player. Highly recommend checking that episode out if you're a blues fan listening.
And if you're listening, I'm going to check it out. So I think everyone should. But when you're thinking, okay, we're trying to see where a feature is going to sit, and then you have a song about young people. Well, you think, okay, we have a great deal of young names in blues right now. And one of the biggest is Kingfish. And when you hear Kingfish's voice, when you hear Kingfish's playing, you hear all the emotion that's in it. You hear all the emphasis. And when I was playing it, I was just like, man, know who would have a burning solo in a song like this where you're expressing your concern, you're expressing your emotion. Christone Kingfish Ingram. Now, Tom Hambridge works with Christone Kingfish Ingram a good deal. And Rich Fleming as well. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, they work with Kingfish. Possibly, maybe Kingfish could be on the album on Word About the Young. And that moment, it became just like the dream. This is the dream. For me, it was like, this is the dream good scenario. This is the great case scenario. Kingfish gets on Word About the Young. And we start throwing little hints. And by little hints, I mean, we start blatantly saying, hey, you know who would be great on this song? But you don't want to seem very, hey, put Kingfish on. No, so we were like, hey, Kingfish would be great for this song because it's about being young and it's about voicing the issues we see as young people. The thing that a lot of older people, and where we're from, we say grown people, don't necessarily think we think about. We have that live-free thing, but hey, it's hard to have a live-free thing and a worry-free thing and have that the idea that we're all immortal. And it's hard to have that when you know what's going on, when you're aware of what's going on. So to communicate that by myself would be one thing, but to communicate that with someone who's just as in touch with what that means, that's where Kingfish came in. To be able to say, hey, if you don't take it from me, take it from this guy. Take it from this guy as well. It's for him to even come in and be on my debut album like that meant so much to me because we couldn't link up in the studio. His schedule was so busy. We were recording this around the same time as Fender's Strat Month series, the Strat series month, and all those festivals were also happening. Jazz Fest was happening. Just everything was happening all at once. Buddy Guys, his farewell tour has also been happening. So it was hard to link a schedule of, hey, we're going to be recording in Nashville at this time while Kingfish is in Chicago or Milwaukee or something like that playing somewhere else or back in Mississippi. It was hard to link that. So what ended up happening was saying, hey, we're just going to put trust in this. We're going to trust that Christone Kingfish Ingram is going to record on this. And sure enough, there were times where it was getting sort of scary and then like, oh no, are we waiting too long? Are we? But then it went back to saying, hey, trust that this is going to happen. Leave it in God's hands. Just hope and pray for the best. And next thing you know, we get an email that says, yeah, Kingfish is going to record on it. He's going to do it. And we're like, yes, perfect. And one night I'm in bed and trusting still. And I'm saying, okay, nice. And I go on Tom Hambridge's Instagram and I see sitting with Kingfish, just recorded in New Orleans. Can't wait for this to drop. And I go, my face is just, my mind's blown. My face is, like you said, jaw floor. So I'm just, whoa, this just happened. I run to my dad. I go, Dad, Kingfish just recorded. And he just recorded I think he just recorded Word About the Young. And next thing you know, we get another email that says, here's Kingfish's cut of Word About the Young. Tell me how you like it. was amazing. So, and I'll say this anytime I get a chance to. Christone, Kingfish, Ingram, man, thank you so much for even recording on this album. It really means a lot to me. And thank you for recording on a song that means so much to me. And I hope it means so much to everyone else.
It certainly does. It's an amazing track, a great collaboration. And he killed it. He slayed the song. Yeah. So to pivot from that, I want to talk about a song that you personally slayed on, my friend. And that track is Tattooed Wings.
I thought you were an angel. Looks like I was wrong about that. I thought you were an angel. Looks like I was wrong about that. I should have seen it coming with the tattooed wings on your back.
We've talked a lot about your vocals and your lyrics throughout this episode, but I want to talk about the piano for a moment, because between the nuanced fills that you were playing throughout the verse as you're singing and then transitioning into the song's piano solo, I was absolutely hypnotized by this track.
Play it now.
Can you talk about your piano background? Because while this is a blues number, I hear hints of jazz in some of the runs and fills you're incorporating in the song. And to me, it's, again, all part of that musical stew of genres coming together in your music.
Well, you gotta accept your help from everywhere. That's the truth. I mean, I'm from New Orleans, and I grew up around great pianists. Henry Butler, DeVille Crawford. My dad played for Dr. John. My dad's, it's like I grew up around great pianists. And then I went to Anoka, and I had the same exact teacher as John Baptiste. I had Michael Polera teach me. And I had so many others, Matt Limler and so many more. And then you get to Nashville, you think you're all ready to record, and then someone says, hey, check this out. That's where Kevin McKendrick comes in with just saying, hey, check this out. Just sometimes you just got to learn. You got to learn even more when you get there. You got to check out somebody and see exactly how great they are so that they can teach you how to do it. So I can't take that kind of credit for it. And Kevin McKendrick is the man who really put some work behind it. Because my natural sound, I'm a heavy-handed blues pianist from the South, man. And to see and learn how to be that airy and how to put spills like that in there, man, that's where you really gotta give it credit. That's where you gotta say, man, sometimes you think you got it, you just don't got it yet. Now you got to check it out and learn so that you can get it. So yeah, I mean, it's an accumulation. I think the word is. It's an accumulation of all of the pieces and then some even.
Well, I also want to give a personal hat tip to Tom Hambridge's production on the album, because the mix on the album is so immersive. There's moments where I hear your organ in my left ear and the guitarist in my right ear. When you're listening on a good set of headphones, the band is truly encircling you musically. And I think that is a very unique production style for blues music, because blues is very much kind of meant like older blues albums. If you think about all the way back, it was always kind of front and center, in your face, everybody playing at once. This opens up a soundscape that I think is just very encapsulating as a listen.
I'll be very clear about it. When I first heard it, that was the very thing that sort of put me in a place where I was like, man, this is a new sound to me. When it comes to blues, like you said, you're so used to, all right, here's the blues, everything, everything's just there. And then it was Go Be Free that sort of spelled it out to me. Go Be Free and Hot House. Those songs I knew I wrote them, but at the same time, I started hearing the placement of my story. Those songs that are very descriptive in their writing and very, then I started hearing each part of it, where it's like I'd hear one side of the story, then another side of the story, and then another aspect, and a little aspect here and a little aspect there. And that, I thought that was just amazing. And I mean, Tom Hambridge, I don't know how he thought to do it or how he just said, okay, this is how it's going to sound, but he made the album, and I keep emphasizing, he made it alive. And I think that's the hardest thing. A lot of people put out music to put out music, and it's not alive. It's just, hey, here's something I can put on the table. But Tom Hambridge did a special tip, and like you said, tip the hat. He did a special tip and say, I want this to be somewhere that you're stepping into. And that's the magic of it, if I'm going to be honest.
Absolutely succeeded at that. And being you mentioned Hot House, let's take a moment to hear a sneak peek of that.
Living in the hot house, living with the flames, fire all around, black smoke in my face. Heat starts rising, I start crying. Dear Lord, won't you show me the way? Like a little black sheep done strayed from the fold, 3 bags full and I lost my soul. The path ain't clear by judgment day. Tell the hot house that I'm on my way. Burn down, burn down, burn down, burn down and burn it. Burn down, burn down, burn down the hot house. Now south of New Orleans where the blues runs free, the sky's on fire, you can barely breathe. When nightfall comes, the daylight fades, the hot house stands where the blues is played. Burn down, ooh yeah, burn down, burn down, burn it. Burn down, burn down the hot house. Hey!
Now, from the first moment of inspiration to the finished album, Go Be Free, was there a lesson you learned making this album that you'll take with you throughout your continuing career?
Yes. And it was something that I already knew and I already told a lot of people. But seeing it play out, even for me, was gigantic. There is a world of musicians between where you currently are and the place you say you want to be. That was the big, big takeaway. It's not that you're not close to going where you want to go, but there are so many more people who are going to help you and help you learn along the way. And you might not know their names, but you might have heard them 1,000,001 times, never even knew. I mean, all of the guys who recorded on this album played for bigger names. I mean, bigger names than me. They've played for people like Hank and Anthony Hamilton and Chris Stapleton and Buddy Guy. but where you might not have thought, okay, there are these people between me and where I say I want to be. There are. And for every one of them that you meet, there's about 20 more that you don't know. You don't even know they exist. But they might be the very ones who help you create your first album that's on a major record label. They might be the ones that get you to say, okay, I need to lock in even harder in piano. I need to train harder as a guitarist as well. And I mean, that was a humbling experience. And if you don't go into experiences with humility, that's going to be a big shocker. There was a moment in one of the songs where I thought I was ready to tackle another solo. You know, I was like, all right, I feel good about this. Let me try this now. And I got in there and played very heavy-handed and very, very New Orleans live style. Live is great. Live, that's exactly what people want to hear. On a record, that can make the difference between a record sounding real and a record sounding too perfect. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's where I came back in the booth, and I looked at my dad and said, that was humiliating. And I told him, I said, my dad understood what I meant, but everyone else in them was sort of taken aback by what I said, because they were like, no, that was great. I'm like, no, that was humiliating. And my dad knew it. I believe there are 3 words that describe the same thing: humiliation, embarrassment, and being humble are 3 that are all synonyms. But the truth is, in embarrassment, you didn't learn any lesson from what you just did. If you say, this embarrassed me, you didn't learn anything. But when you're humiliated, that's showing, hey, not that you're not good. It's showing, hey, there's still more you have to go through to be there. You're not, just because you're in the room with 5 to 6 great artists and great engineers and everything, that doesn't mean that you're there yet. And then mix that with saying, okay, I understand that these guys are they've been doing it for years and years and years. They're better at this right now. One day I'll be there. Well, that's called being humble. And that's saying, okay, the lesson I learned from being humiliated, I'm holding. And I'm taking that with me everywhere I go. You know, and that's, I think any time I can tell people about an experience that humbled me, you know, anytime I can do that, that's saying, hey, that's the lesson I took away. So, yep, if I can say if there's any lesson I took away, it was, hey, just because you're in the room with these greats doesn't mean that you're there all the way. Don't stop. Don't even get close to thinking that you are, because you have a million miles to go before you get there, and a million people to meet all the way. So yeah, that's what I learned.
Absolutely profound. Go Be Free is available via Blind Pig Records, which I'll make sure is also linked up on the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com, so you could pick up a copy on CD or vinyl. You can also stream it wherever you're streaming music. Sonny, it has been an absolute pleasure talking music with you tonight, and I can't wait to catch the band next time you run through New Jersey on one of your tours.
Hey, man. Thank you so much, Mr. Brian. And also, thank you all the listeners for listening to My Weekly Mixtape. Yeah, you're right.
And remember, you could find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, become a future guest, chime in on future episode topics, and so much more. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.